This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
The numbers told the story, they always do.
It's one of those idiots who believe in analytics.
This is a numbers game with Gil Alexander on VSiN.
Good Thursday morning to you, although not good for everyone. It is a numbers game at VSiN, the sports betting network, VSiN.com, Game Plus, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, and of course Sirius XM Channel 158. Gil Alexander, it's my little buddy Kelly Bidlin alongside, producer number 9, so much more than a producer. On a day, Kelly, that may prove to be very interesting this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will do our normal thing on Thursday, obviously. Zach and Crack, Zach Cohen on the NBA games themselves we're talking about in this case. Also tennis, any tennis that he has, and obviously NFL. Tim Murray on college football, Crack unscripted coming up later on the show. We'll try to get to the other stuff, the Are We Sures of the world. Jordan Sherwood on UFC 321. We will do that as well. But this morning, in case you missed it, and I'm guessing you haven't, but just in case you have, we are about to get a press conference. You know how these things go. It's supposed to be scheduled for right now. We will see. From FBI Director Kash Patel about a massive probe that is supposed to be happening. Shams Charania was one of the first to report on this morning, where it's a massive NBA probe into sports betting and into a poker ring of sorts. We'll see. Here was the initial report from Shams. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier arrested early Thursday morning as part of an FBI sports betting gambling probe. Sources telling ESPN the Eastern District of New York and FBI Director Kash Patel holding a press conference, as we mentioned, 10 a.m. Eastern, to announce arrests from the investigation. Apparently, Rozier, Kelly, was arrested at a hotel in Orlando this morning.
Yep.
And then Shams with the Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups. We're talking about an active NBA coach, right? And Hall of Fame player. Chauncey Billups has been arrested by the FBI for alleged illegal gambling. Notice that doesn't say sports betting. That, we believe, is more related to poker. But apparently the word they're using is related. Here it is from ABC News. Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups charged an illegal poker operation tied to the mafia. Law enforcement sources have told ABC News, and then the Heat guard Terry Rozier arrested in a separate but related betting case. So we're all going to find out together. By the way, there is another arrest that has been made now. Former Cleveland Cavaliers, Miami Heat player and assistant coach with the Cavs, Damon Jones, arrested this morning on charges that he provided inside information about NBA games to co-defendants who used it to place sports bets. That's according to ABC News. Jones is 49 years old, played for 10 teams, by the way, in an 11-year career, most notably with the Cavs, I think. So we'll see. We don't want to speculate beyond that. We'll find out the details here momentarily, and of course, we'll talk about it here throughout the show. We'll talk about it throughout the day here at VSiN.
Yep.
But
I think I was just going to say a couple. So we know those 3 arrests this morning, all coming early this morning. 6 total arrests is so far that we know of, according to David Purdom. He reported that this morning. And yeah, like you said, the press conference coming up.
And remember, Terry Rozier was cleared by the NBA. Remember there's that montage that's still out there of Terry Rozier plays where he's looking like very suspicious, looking very sus. With some of his plays, but he was cleared by the league, so apparently not here by the feds, if you will. And just sort of the broad. By the way, we haven't heard the name Malik Beasley mentioned here. Remember the Malik Beasley stuff that had happened earlier? So maybe he's not involved in this.
I actually did hear his name earlier, just of that he had not been arrested.
He had not been arrested, right? And Beasley, remember, was the one where there were prop bets, and then there was a strange coast-to-coast play with 5 seconds left when his team was down 10, when the Pistons were down 10. So we'll see. We'll get all the details here from all this. I will say this, just from if we're being fair about this, legalized sports betting, not that they want this to happen, but it is a sort of contextual victory for them, because this is what was always promised, right?
Right.
That with legalized sports betting would come this kind of scrutiny, would come this kind of oversight. And so in that sense, legalized sports betting is having themselves a day. But we'll see. We'll see what the extent of this is. Listen, if it's the FBI director giving a press conference, the instinct is to say that this is a big deal. widespread. Obviously, it's a big deal no matter what, but widespread would be the instinct. We'll see.
And all national news networks carrying it, I believe, here whenever this starts. You would think this is this is a big deal, and we'll see how many people are connected in this. I also heard from Shams this morning, as of last night, NBA was not aware of any of this was coming.
That's right.
The timing is... it is not coincidental. Let's put it that way, Gil, right? It does not feel that way at all if they wanted the games to be played last night and this stuff to happen right after.
Well, that's also the timing of it, right? The NBA, instead of celebrating Victor Wembanyama's 40-15 virtuoso performance last night, that's not what anybody's talking about right now, anyway.
Also on the heels of Adam Silver on Pat McAfee just on Tuesday, talking about, in length about what their current status was with a lot of, gambling partnerships and part of the game and incorporating it and what they're trying to get away from and move forward with. And 2 days later.
Yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by it all, I have to say, because, first of all, again, remember, the Rozier part of this stemmed from the betting scandal involving former Raptors center Jonte Porter. Remember that? The Jonte Porter incident, who was banned from the NBA in the spring of 2024 for his role in a gambling scheme around player prop bets. Porter pled guilty to conspiracy charges, admitted in court to manipulating his performance in 2 games during the 2023-24 season. Remember, though, that was on specific props related to him, but he is a marginal player, right? And you kind of, right? This is the other thing about it. For those of us who are entrenched in sports betting media, we kind of get this in a way that the mainstream reporting, remember, initially was murky with some of these guys, like with the Beasley stuff. They were focusing on these props, and it didn't even go Beasley's way.
Right. They didn't make sense.
So it didn't make sense. And the other part of this is you wonder if the players themselves are sophisticated enough to have, to have remained under the radar, and clearly the answer to that is no. So that's the other sort of fascinating from our little corner of the world perspective of it, is you have people doing things and they're not doing it in the cagiest of ways. Not that they should be doing it all. The difference between Porter and these other players, right, like a Rozier, boy, oh boy, we always said, right? We always said when we just speculated theoretically on matters like this, why would pro athletes making 8 figures or 9 figures, right, ever jeopardize their lives, their livelihoods, doing something like that? But we're about to find out just how widespread this is and how many people did, in fact, jeopardize what they're doing.
Yeah, and you hear about these poker games, Gil. We talked about the one with Gilbert Arenas not too long ago. I'm very curious to see, what if there's any connection at all, or if all of this stuff is connected.
Yeah. Again, there it is, the ABC News report about Billups and the Rozier related but separate cases. So we'll find out about. It
is so tough, Gil. Like, you brought it up perfectly. It is so tough. I know that today, whatever comes out, there's going to be this big, black eye on sports betting and the NBA and everything like that. But this is the legalization of sports betting, like you said, put in place to help monitor and catch these type of things. So we'll see how much that's brought up today.
We'll see. And we're about to find out from FBI Director Kash Patel, which again does sort of take over from what was a glorious night for the league itself, where we had Drew on earlier this week, Drew Dinsick, who was saying, "Hey, Victor Wembanyama, leading the league in scoring 100-1." Well, he comes out of the gate with a 40. He tickles the strings to 40 balloons last night, as we used to say at basketball camp.
Incredible.
40.15 rebound performance, in which, if you look at the highlight reel, you're like, this is AI gone too far. This can't be real.
Yeah.
Including like the reverse jam where he was barely off the ground, where you're like, oh my God.
The and
insane.
One, you mean? Where he took the
one.
Contact and then just easily goes around the basket?
Oh my God. Yeah. So great. What was beyond Wembanyama last night? What stood out to you? I'll lead with this. The Los Angeles Clippers getting destroyed by the Utah Jazz, lowest season win total in the NBA, just supposed doormat.
Yeah, that was ugly performance by the Clippers for sure. Yeah, we'll see with some of these new teams, Gil. They got to get some things figured out. Clippers working in a lot of new pieces, but yeah, you go into Utah, they were like 10-point favorites and get blown out. That's one of those final score looks a whole lot better than what it was because you and I were texting it. That lead was into the 30s. Look. Wemby, first of all, from a betting standpoint, this is what we do here, right? Sports betting. So we're going to talk about it even while we're waiting on a press conference about betting people getting in trouble with it. MVP, Wembanyama down to 3-1 after one game last night. He was 11-1 over at DraftKings before yesterday, all the way down to 3-1. Next one, VJ Edgecombe, right? We talk about rookies.
VJ Edgecombe.
Cooper Flagg upstaged last night by not only Victor Wembanyama in his own game, but then VJ Edgecombe for the 76ers, helping lead them to a victory over the Knicks, and he crashes as well. Odds, he puts up 34 points, 3 assists, the most points by any rookie in their first game since Wilt Chamberlain. I did not see that one coming at all.
And I believe it was the most in the first quarter, right? 14. I believe that's the most ever, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe you're right. Yeah, I believe you're right. And then Edgecombe, just like Wemby, odds crash. Rookie of the year all the way down to plus 225 for Edgecombe this morning.
Good start for your Hornets, the March to 26. Nice start for them.
The March to 30.
I'm sorry. I keep going with the standard season rental. I'm sorry, Kelly. Your alts are in play, too.
I'm already greedy. That's right. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else. I think the Miami-Orlando, if anybody watched that game, the pace of that game was incredible. I mean, that total was 215, 216, flies over. It lands 246. Miami and Orlando going up and down the court. Looking like completely different teams than what we've seen out of them for the past several years. I thought Toronto looked impressive in their 20-point win over the Atlanta Hawks. It was good. It was good having it all back last night, Gil.
And yet, swept under the carpet now. We're waiting on the word from Cash Patel on this gambling probe. While we're waiting on that, let's sneak in some talk on the Chargers and Vikings on the other side as well. We'll work in some divisions. National Football League on the other side. It's a numbers game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you're serious about football betting, VSiN's got your weekend game plan. Fridays at 7 p.m., it's the Circa Friday Football Invitational. Saturday morning, VSiN's College Football Tailgate Show at 9 a.m., breaking down matchups, props, and big-time bets. Later that night, join the Football Contest Show as the sharpest betting minds give you their picks for Sunday's game. And Sunday at 9 a.m., lock in with Mitch and Pauly on VSiN's Pro Football Tailgate Show. Your final stop before kickoff. Check out the full lineup at VSiN.com and join us on the Sports Betting Network.
So, Pauly, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's Late Night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
What's up, folks? It's JVT. On Thursday's edition of Money Moves, we get you ready for Thursday night football between the Chargers and the Vikings. Chargers getting healthy along the offensive line. Can they handle the role of being a favorite against Minnesota? Plus, we've got a good slate of NBA games. The defending champs on the hardwood again, taking on their opponent in the NBA Finals, the Indiana Pacers. We'll have a full preview of every single game, plus a prop perspective from Jeff Erickson from RotoWire. That's all coming up on Money Moves Thursday, 2 to 4 Eastern, 11 to 1 Pacific on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Numbers Game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Don't forget about the website, VSiN.com. If you want to bet smarter with Smarter Insights, our college basketball betting guide available for download. Vikings, Chargers, Thursday night preview. Steve Makinen's Week 9 college football picks. And later today, you can check out Zach Cohen's NBA picks and props, Jonathan Davis's NHL best bets, and John Hansen's Thursday night football props. Unlock every article with VSiN Pro. Sports Equinox Special gives you full access through May 1st, 2026 for just $120. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe and stay sharp through the spring. So here's what we, from the very top of the press conference from Kash Patel, a sports gambling and rigging, they've been probing this for years now, sports gambling and rigging, 30 people, 30 different arrests in this gambling investigation. 30. We will find out names, I guess, as they come out. But and there are also we had some reports of more than 30, but the number they're going with is 30 at this point. So there it is. Terry Rozier's attorney has something to say?
Yeah,
in the
just
meantime?
seeing another one. Billups facing charges on wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering in connection with this investigation. And then, yes, this is from Pablo Torre, his Twitter account right now. This is a quote he received from Jim Trusty, the attorney for Terry Rozier. Quote, "We have represented Terry Rozier for over a year. Long time ago, we reached out to these prosecutors to tell them we should have an open line of communication. They characterized Terry as a subject, not a target. But at 6 a.m. this morning, they called to tell me FBI agents were trying to arrest him in a hotel. It's unfortunate that instead of allowing him to self-surrender, they opted for a photo op. They wanted the misplaced glory of embarrassing a professional athlete with a perp walk. That tells you a lot about the motivations in this case. They appear to be taking the word of speculatory, incredible sources rather than relying on actual evidence of wrongdoing. Terry was cleared by the NBA, and these prosecutors revived that non-case. Terry is not a gambler, but he's not afraid of a fight, and he looks forward to winning this fight," end quote.
Yeah. Two sides to every story, right?
Yep.
So I'm glad we got that quote from Terry Rozier's attorney. And again, we'll update this story as it goes on. But we're talking 30 people wide, and on the morning of, also, right? It's a sort of cataclysmic, seismic event within the sport itself. Who knows, as it develops in future weeks and months, just where it goes. By the way, in whatever direction, maybe even in a muted fashion, which is what Terry Rozier's attorney is sort of intimating there, at least with his client. Okay. In the meantime, let's talk a little Thursday night football as these notes come in. As inartful as a segue as that is, it is the Chargers and the Vikings tonight. Thursday night football at SoFi in L.A. And really a game, quite frankly, that has playoff implications for both in their respective conferences, because you're dealing with a couple teams that are really sort of certainly on the outside looking in right now, or the Chargers are threatening to be on the outside looking in. They've lost 3 of their last 4 ball games. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the Commanders. They lost to the Colts. They really barely, the one game they did win in that 4-game stretch, they barely beat the Dolphins, remember, with the Chargers. With the Vikings, they end up comporting themselves very well against Philly, even though they lose. And prior to that, it was the Europe game where they won very late in the second of their 2 consecutive England games, where they won late against the Browns. And it's still Carson Wentz tonight for the Vikings. And I said this yesterday on the show, which is the whole J.J. McCarthy thing is very, very curious to me, because he had that hand, right? We were told after game 2, he didn't leave the second game of the year with the Vikings. We were told after the game by head coach Kevin McCarthy, yeah, he's got issues. He's not going to be able to play next week. We haven't seen him since. And that's pretty interesting. And we're still not seeing him tonight at SoFi. So that's the general, way that they come into this game. But I'll just, listen, I'm a guy who has a -2.5 on the Chargers. So that's not there anymore. It's 3.5. And this is just for those who are new and newish to sports betting. That's the difference between a bet for me and bet for many, and not a game you want any part of whatsoever. Just that 1 point through the 3. Because the Chargers, Kelly, you'll appreciate this too, because I know you are you're a guy who has been on record as saying, I don't know about this Justin Herbert as much as people are selling us on him. That can apply to the Chargers in general this year. Obviously, just mentioned they've lost 3 of their last 4. The one win was against a moribund Dolphins team that they only beat by 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Chargers, let's just go into some of the analytics. The Chargers are now 23rd in the NFL in DVOA. 23rd.
Wow.
Okay? They're 15th in EPA. They are expected points added. Break that down further. They're 19th in opponents' expected points added per play. Again, all very middling to bad. Herbert, the aforementioned Justin Herbert, 16th among starting quarterbacks in expected points added, plus completion percentage over expected. 16th, middle of the road, which is only 1 spot better than Mac Jones and 1 spot worse than Carson Wentz. Chargers defense that ranks in the middle of the pack, 13th, when you break it down by run and pass, 13th in expected points added per pass this season. But as far as the ground game, they're 29th against the run. 29th in expected points added as a rush defense. They're allowing 5.1 yards per carry is what the Chargers are doing. And by the way, the Vikings defense against Justin Herbert, who we just mentioned, is middle of the road when it comes to expected points added plus completion percentage over expected. Vikings defense, Brian Flores defense, they blitz like it's going out of style, right? That's what you do. 3rd highest sack percentage, 27.6%. I don't know. It's just a lot. I guess what I'm saying is this. As a guy who has the Chargers minus 2.5, figuring they will figure it out, they do get a free pass somehow that other teams don't get, is what I'm really trying to get at here. Which is that, you know, the Chargers, if this was another team with a different brand, and obviously the Chargers brand is one of ultimate failure every year, right? Though a competent football team, I'm suggesting that they're not quite as even competent as people give them credit for.
Yeah, I think when the losses started, and even before the losses, right, you could point to injuries, and I think there was a lot of that, I don't want to say excuse, but reasoning being given for this team. Yeah. I think over the past week or two, I think more people have come around to, okay, where's this team really at? Injuries are big, though. I'm not going to rule that out. A couple offensive linemen that are still questionable. A couple of significant injuries to watch out for this game tonight. You do have a couple offensive linemen for the Chargers. See if Joe Alt can give it a go this week. He was practicing last week, limited again this week in practice. We'll see if he goes. On the Minnesota side, you already talked about McCarthy being out, but Van Ginkel out again for them as well. Christian Darrisaw questionable for tonight. So some significant injuries here on both sides of the ball. I'm in with you on Chargers 2.5. I played that on the open. We've kind of talked about it all week, though, Gil. Really more of a number play. I thought sub 3 was a little light. Wanted to get in on 2.5. Sitting at 3.5. This feels about right now. It was already not a huge bet for me on the Chargers initially. I think this is also a shop around situation. I'm seeing flat 3s out there, and I'm seeing 3.5s. So
shop around for sure. Let me just give you stats. I gave you year-long stats. Let me give you the stats over the last 3 games.
Yeah.
Okay? They rank dead last, talking about the Chargers, in NFL in yards per play allowed, with, again, the Commanders, Dolphins, and Colts all reaching at least 27 points. Game against the Colts, where the Colts scored 38 on them. They scored 38 on them in just 3 quarters. Dominated every which way, allowed touchdowns in 4 of 5 red zone trips from the Colts. And again, the pass defense over the last 3 games has seen an average of 7.6 yards per pass attempt, 6th worst mark in the NFL. That's courtesy of covers. 2 separate 300-plus yard passing games for Carson Wentz in his last 3. Wentz averaging 299.6 passing yards per game over his last 3. And again, the pass rush, 2nd in the NFL in pressure rate. What did I say, 3rd earlier? Yeah. So, anyway, top 3. And so I'm just saying, this is from a guy who has the Chargers minus 2.5. But that's the kind of, all I'm trying to say is, they're as shaky as many perceive them to be, but I do think mainstream media, they still get branded in a category that may not be commensurate with the underlying number.
It's almost always going to shade that way, right? Because people love Jim Harbaugh, they love Justin Herbert. It's going to happen. The Vikings quarterback stuff is interesting. My eyes are fully open, Gil, when it comes to the Vikings and 49ers and what's going on with those quarterback situations. Because, these are starting to feel much more, I mean, especially with the Vikings, this is starting to feel much more like a, semi-injured benching more than actually him being fully hurt and out of this game, not starting for the Vikings. I don't know when we're going to see McCarthy again.
All right, we have a few more details on the probe, the FBI probe into the National Basketball Association. It invokes NBA players, coaches, and La Cosa Nostra, the Sicilian mafia. 6 defendants on sports gambling, inside sports gambling, NBA specific. 31 defendants on rigged poker games using high-tech cheating technology. So there's your 30. It sounds like it's more than 30 now. And the sports gambling part was, in fact, prop bets in the NBA and then laundering of those winnings, generally speaking, into this probe. That is ungood, as Matt Brown likes to say.
Mm-hmm.
Not good. We'll come back. Zach Cohen will join us, and more details on the probe. Coming up, Numbers Game, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Got a good thing coming. Just wait and see. It's a good.
The NBA betting season is tipping off, and VSiN's got you covered with our brand new NBA betting guide. We've packed it with key insights and betting trends, previews of all 30 teams, and of course, our experts' season-long best bets. It's the playbook you want in your hands before the first tip. The guide is exclusive for VSiN Pro members, so don't miss out. Sign up today at VSiN.com/subscribe and join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The Numbers Game on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
First Bet is the official racing partner of VSiN, and they're thrilled to bring an exclusive offer to bet the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Use promo code VSiNBC. That's VSINBC, and you'll be entered to win an all-expense-paid trip to Vegas when you deposit and bet $200. Plus, when you deposit and bet just $100, you get a one-year VSiN Pro subscription for access to exclusive content, picks, and more. Bet the Breeders' Cup with First Bet, the official racing partner of VSiN, with promo code VSINBC, VSiNBC. It's Gil Alexander, Kelly Bidlin alongside Danny Higgins, doing a wonderful job, as is the entire crew behind the glass. We've put this embargo on all jokes. We're usually throwing jokes back and forth, but on this matter, just so that we get the details precise, we have banned humor.
We're no
in the
fun
studio.
today. There's a lot of good jokes on Twitter. Okay,
That's right.
If you're looking for good jokes, go to Twitter.
But Danny's doing a great job just feeding us the details. And so, again, if you're just tuning in, FBI probe into the National Basketball Association sports betting. This was the initial reports this morning. The sports betting part of this is what grabs our attention most prominently. As it looks now, this is all related in the sense that, well, first of all, the word related was being thrown around earlier between the sports betting aspect of this and the poker betting aspect of this.
Right.
It's related in the sense that it's all deals with NBA players or coaches. And it all, they are saying that it all stems from the Jonte Porter Toronto Raptors scandal, which I don't know how to interpret that other than maybe I don't know if he's singing or whatever. But anyway, this has been going on for years. This probe has been going on for years. And the poker aspect, so the Terry Rozier part of this is the sports betting part of this.
Mm-hmm.
The poker part of this is prominently focused on Chauncey Billups' involvement, but essentially what has been stated in this, by the way, we're getting reports also that they're messing up, like Terry Rozier, his name is being pronounced that way.
Oh, that sounds right.
The Toronto Rangers, is it, or something like that? They're messing up all the names of the teams and the players. But anyway, the interesting part about well, there's many interesting parts, but one of the interesting aspects of the poker part of this with Chauncey Billups is this is the mafia-related part where using technology, so apparently the dealers were in on this, and the dealers and the co-conspirators were using technology to dupe
whatever players you're getting playing it. Yeah.
Whatever other humans are losing the money and are unaware of this going on.
Yeah.
And so that's what we've learned so far about the poker part of this. And if that's the case, at least the preliminary reports, not that any of this is good, I want to state that in advance, but it feels like the poker part of this is much larger. Relatively speaking, it's all relative, it's all bad, but the poker part might, and how Chauncey Billups has gotten himself involved in all this and they've been investigating this for 2 years. Good God.
I'm interested to see here later today too. No Gilbert Arenas mentioned at all. That story was not that long ago, and it was very similar, right? Illegal home poker games connected.
That's right.
To illegal factions. Chad Millman, this got this tweet from old Rob Moreno back there, and crew doing a great job, as you said. Here's some of the details of the rigged poker games that both Damon Jones and Chauncey Billups were involved. This is from the U.S. Attorney press conference. X-ray machines built into tables to read face-down cards. Contact lenses / glasses that read pre-marked cards. And secret cameras in card trays.
So sophisticated, in other words.
It's going to be tough to win at a table like that, Gil. I'll tell you that. It's going to be tough for me to sit down and win at a table like that.
It's, the evolution of a Molly's game into sophisticated technology.
That was always my joke with the Arenas thing. It was just like, did you watch and then not watch the end of it? You didn't learn anything?
Like, you watched the first half.
You watched the first half. I was like, this is a great idea.
Well, I mean, that, by the way, if we're all immersed in betting, and if you're like me, then the text that we're all throwing around to each other this morning, some of them is, let's be honest, some of them have to do with all these other guys who have been tied into illegal betting. You wonder, like, is Tim Donaghy sitting in a corner somewhere today just sort of smiling? Is Shohei having breakfast in Toronto just being like, well, here's the thing. And again, we got to shout out legalized sports betting, because that is a contextual, in context, a quote-unquote victory for what they promised many years ago when PASPA was ruled unconstitutional, that this would be monitored, right? Mm-hmm. That this would be the oversight on this would be such that had never existed before. And so here we are 7 years later, 7+ years later, and we're getting probably the biggest morning since in terms of a scandal. Obviously, some might feel Shohei and the interpreter was, but nothing stuck to Shohei there. So
I really hope they bring that part up. In whatever press conference is going on, I really hope they bring up that part, and it's not just the FBI taking credit for every single thing that's going on.
I don't think they're that savvy about it. I mean, they can't even get Rosier and Toronto Raptors.
It's a shame
because Texas Raptors.
Because if they're connecting all the prop betting stuff, that is such a huge part of it, and it's felt like something, Gil, we said a ton when we got legalized sports betting here just 8 years ago. And we haven't brought it up much since, and unless except for these type of stories that me and you have sat here and talked about, and we try to remind people this was part of the reason why you wanted to legalize it, so you could monitor and catch this stuff.
Yeah. We get tweets beating the book. Jacob Ellis at Wapisi Capital. Well done as always on ESPN Bet Live yesterday. Gil, always cool to see you on the mainstream channels. The shot setup looked great. Shout out to Alex Blowers, to Aramis, to Troy for setting up that shot yesterday for ESPN Bets and her crew.
On that after the show.
Oh, they were awesome. Sparty KY. Chauncey's getting texts saying snitches get stitches right now, he's saying. Razorblade, completely neutral viewers with zero vested interest in the World Series, but this series is favored to go 6 games, he says in caps. Can we please stop acting like this would be the greatest upset of all time? Baseball is random. Razorblade, with all due respect, I'm the one here sitting here talking about how the Blue Jays make contact. Just because I don't think it's getting back to Los Angeles, I don't feel it's the biggest upset. It would be the biggest upset of all time. I really don't. I give Toronto a puncher's chance with that contact. As long as you make contact with the baseball on offense, you don't strike out, you put balls in play, funny things happen. And when you're one of these epic teams on defense that can turn batted balls into outs at a higher rate than most, and have a proficiency, to turn the double play. I talked about this. Joe Pita talked about this when he came in a couple weeks ago, which is that's the profile, right? That is just like the 2015 Royals and the 2014 Giants that ended up winning a World Series. The only difference is that those two teams didn't have to play the 2025 Dodgers. But no, it's not going to be the biggest upset of all time. And by the way, plus 180 reflects in the betting market that it's not the biggest upset of all time.
Yeah, I was going to say. The one I'll ask you about with this is the other part. I think you bring up the contact with the Blue Jays. The Dodgers bullpen, right? That was always a storyline heading into the postseason. I guess from my standpoint, it feels like it hasn't been tested all that much so far. Is that something you would agree with, Gil? And is that something that could still potentially be a problem in the World Series?
I'll repeat the question because I'm looking at information.
the Dodgers bullpen.
Yes,
it was something we had concerns about heading into the postseason, and it hasn't really been fully tested in a series.
Yeah, if the Blue Jays are, as their brand is, to be very patient at bat, right, to make the starting pitching, right, the Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Shohei, quadruple header, if you will, games 1 through 4 in whatever order, if they make them inefficient and you have to go to the pen earlier, yes, you have some arms that you could throw, right? Glasnow could come in relief in one of the games, whatever, Kershaw, whatever that plan is. But yes, the Achilles heel of the Dodgers is their bullpen. The only issue with that, though, is that the Blue Jays bullpen is worse than the Dodgers bullpen. So for every Blue Jays check, there is a Dodgers check that might be a little greater. So that's, but that's their path, to your point. That's their path. That's their path. Let's see. 4 teams came up. This is from Brett Siegel NBA. 4 teams came up in the illegal sports gambling investigation as teams who were bet on. Hornets, Lakers, Raptors, Blazers. Well, they were bet on. That doesn't mean that they are have any knowledge of it, though. Jeff Isaacs, not to be that guy, but who's getting down $13.5K on a regular season NBA prop, and what book is letting them get in unless I anonymously pump cash into a kiosk until it locks, gets flagged probably at $1,000. I don't know. Was that a number that they put out in the press conference?
I believe that is the number that was directly related to that Terry Rozier game that we all had questions about. But it was over what I had read was it was a course of several bets. It was like 7 bets or something like that.
The other thing that again, and Malik Beasley has not been named in this, But I want to go back to the Malik Beasley thing because, again, for those of us who are immersed in this stuff, and Kelly, if you, let's say you were an NBA player, why, first of all, why you would ever want to get involved with a big, hefty salary if you were a guy like Rozier. But if you were doing this correctly as a player, right, you would not win all the time. You would lose some of the times to take them off the scent. And I wonder in the Beasley case, because remember when they first reported Beasley, he's doing these props. He was betting, a big movement to the over on his props, and then it would go under. You just wonder if there are players who are more sophisticated who somehow
100%
are under the radar, right? And it's only let's put it this way, if you're jeopardizing a massive salary doing this in the first place, you're probably not all that bright to begin with. But you wonder if they're not so bright in the way that they're trying to get away with this. But again, poker looks to be the bigger deal here, relatively speaking. Coming back with college football.
The Breeders' Cup is here, and First Bet and VSiN are putting you in the winner's circle with an exclusive offer for horse racing and sports betting fans. Open a new First Bet account and unlock a $250 sign-up bonus with promo code VSiNBC. Then, place just $100 in wagers in your first 30 days, and you'll score a full year of VSiN Pro, a $240 value packed with expert picks, daily best bets, and exclusive insights to make you a sharper bettor. Plus, deposit and wager $200 on the Breeders' Cup, and you'll be entered for a chance to win the ultimate VIP experience at Circa Resort and Casino, including a 2-night stay, a $250 food and beverage credit, your own cabana at Stadium Swim, and a behind-the-scenes visit to the VSiN studio. Don't wait. This exclusive offer ends November 1st. Get in now at first.com/VSiN and use promo code VSiNBC. That's 1st.com/VSIN. Promo code VSINBC.
A numbers game on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Back on a numbers game, a morning that is not typical here in our little corner of the world. Gil Alexander, Kelly Bidlin alongside as the FBI is announcing details of their gambling probe. And I'm glad we got Terry Rozier's attorney's comment in there earlier. Could you repeat the Terry Rozier attorney comment? Do you have that?
I do not, but I will pull it back up. Hold on.
Because again, people will immediately gravitate towards the scandalous headlines, but there are two sides to every story, and I don't want to look back on this morning and think that we didn't give proper airtime to both sides. What is the Rozier attorney?
Jim Trusty, or Trusty or Trusty, sorry, Jim, attorney for Terry Rozier. This is what he sent to Pablo Torre, and I've seen it multiple places now. Quote, "We have represented Terry Rozier for over a year. A long time ago, we reached out to these prosecutors to tell them we should have an open line of communication. They characterized Terry as a subject, not a target, but at 6 a.m. this morning, they called to tell me FBI agents were trying to arrest him in a hotel. It is unfortunate that instead of allowing him to self-surrender, they opted for a photo op. They wanted the misplaced glory of embarrassing a professional athlete with a perp walk." That tells you a lot about the motivations in this case. They appear to be taking the word of speculatory, incredible sources rather than relying on actual evidence of wrongdoing. Terry was cleared by the NBA, and these prosecutors revived that non-case. Terry is not a gambler, but he is not afraid of a fight, and he looks forward to winning this fight.
I think it's important that we get that perspective in. Indiana Jet on Twitter. Didn't the operators, DK, FD, etc., notify the leagues in other instances, which then led to the investigations? The fact that the NBA did not know about this and tossing around the word mafia sounds much deeper than the other scandals. It sure does. And by the way, they're not just tossing around the word mafia. They're naming crime families at this point. Jeff Isaacs. Oh, I already read that one. Sorry. This is from Chris Lee Miller. "Love the energized Kelly back in his NBA element. Keep up the intensity. You guys are an awesome duo. Side note, that much intensity has to be burning more calories for you."
Yeah, yesterday's energy or today's energy? Very different NBA energies yesterday versus today.
Let's see here.
But thank you.
This is from, I'm sort of editing here through these.
Yeah.
BP Futures Bet. Half listening to the press conference, just heard Toronto Rangers. Yeah, we brought that up. This is from... This is Paul M. Well, during the FBI press conference, I learned two things right off the bat. The district attorney doesn't watch the NBA. Rozier is French player pronounced Rosier, and Toronto are the Rangers. This administration, the best, he says. James, NTU89, looking at the Minnesota Chargers graphic you put up earlier, betting this game seems like a fancier way to flip a coin. Yeah, that's kind of what I was just making the distinction between the 2.5 and now the 3.5, but it's sort of settling in at 3 now. Real Knicks, did you just say La Cosa Nostra?
Yes, he did.
What is this, 1988? I'm sure the FBI will associate John Gotti Jr. with all of this. Well, I'm being serious.
Yes.
They used La Cosa Nostra, and they did mention crime families like the Gambino family.
Lucchese's, yep, that
Lucchese
as well. I
as
mean,
well?
multiple families. Yes, multiple of the crime families.
It's really surreal in that respect.
I said the exact same thing during break to Gil. I was like, this feels like a 1980s mob movie.
The numbers, guys, I know there's an embargo on jokes about this. No, jokes just inside the studio. You guys can make the jokes. He says, but can you at least pronounce mafia the way Norm Macdonald pronounces it, mafia? Okay, I'll try to keep that in mind. Joe C., in lieu of what's going on now, does anybody still really think Shohei had anything to do with gambling? Did he maybe have an idea? Probably, but I don't think he was involved in any way. FBI isn't here to play favorites. Michael Burns, conspiracy theory, saying, what about professional athletes' homes getting broken into? Wonder if that could be tied in as well. And Christian Marge, probably with the best tweet thus far this morning. Christian Marge, anyone who bet on the Toronto Rangers deserves jail time. I think we can all agree on that one. Let's, as inartfully as this is, let's get some more bets in here. Let's get some actual bets in here. Let's talk some college football. Tim Murray joins us now. He's the co-host of Primetime Live. He hosts College Tailgate Show here every Saturday morning. He's got the College Football Betting Podcast. Tim, how you doing, man?
I'm great. I'm excited for the Mafia. Felt like we've been needing a good Mafia movie lately, so I'm excited, man. This is riveting times right now with the Mafia back, to echo your guys' point. I mean, it's like the early 90s all over again.
Yeah. Let's cleanse all of this temporarily, at least with your favorite bets of the weekend in college football. What do you like?
Yeah, there's a couple out there. And, look, the situation that I think a lot of people are staring at, and the market has certainly moved in that direction, is this BYU at Iowa State game. We've got another situation, guys, where you've got the unranked team as the favorite. We had it last weekend, and Duke did not take care of business as the unranked favorite against Georgia Tech. From a situational standpoint, guys, BYU is a really tricky spot for them heading on the road to Iowa State. Iowa State coming off a bye, getting a little bit healthier. They should have one of their running backs back. They should have one of their kickers back. I mean, Iowa State, this is a team that's been dealing with a ton of injuries, guys. And a couple weeks back when they played Cincinnati, their depleted secondary got lit up by Brendan Sorsby in a game that they lost ultimately 38-30. So, look, BYU 7-0. They deserve a ton of credit for where they've gotten to, considering the situation that unfolded this offseason with Jake Retzlaff and everything that unfolded there. He's now at Tulane. Bear Bachmeier has stepped in, the true freshman. He's played well. You do look back, though, at that BYU-Utah game. Utah lost by 3 as a 3.5, 4-point favorite, and they had 3 possessions end on downs. They had multiple turnovers in that game. So BYU, and this is a credit to them, they don't beat themselves up. So, look, I laid a money line price at around $1.40. I think they're still in that ballpark. I think $1.42 out there. I do get a little bit worried about Iowa State's back end of the secondary. Still dealt with dealing, I should say, with a bunch of injuries. But look, this is the Big 12, man. As we saw last week with Arizona State knocking off Texas Tech, this is who this conference is. I don't anticipate BYU to be able to run the table here. So this was one game, certainly from a situational standpoint, that jumped out immediately to me. So I will be on the Cyclones here and handing BYU their first loss of the season.
Yeah, I had asked who was I asking earlier in the week? I think Tyler Shoemaker. Which of the non-usual suspects undefeated did he think was more fugazi between BYU and Georgia Tech? Your answer to that question would be?
I guess by process of elimination, I would say BYU. I think Georgia Tech is a team that, I love what they've got at the quarterback position there. They thrive in that underdog role. And here's the thing I'll say. I was on Duke last week. Obviously, it was the wrong side. Second half, things fell apart. That second half adjustment by them defensively was really impressive. Like the first half, you kind of knew you were totally screwed if you had Duke because they were outgaining Georgia Tech by 100+ yards and were tied at the break. But I think both of these teams, certainly in the discussion to make the playoff. But I think Georgia Tech, if you're talking about the reality of the possibility of making the playoff, Gil, I think it would be Georgia Tech just because of the schedule. Moving forward, Georgia Tech will be a favorite in all of the remaining ACC games. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, what is it going to look like if Georgia Tech loses to Georgia in the regular season finale and then loses to, let's say, Miami in the ACC championship game? So I think Georgia Tech right now is certainly hoping for, teams like Virginia to kind of run the table here in order to have that type of ACC championship. And honestly, the ACC is hoping that Miami doesn't make the ACC championship game. And here's why.
Right.
An 11-1 Miami is getting in as an at-large. And if it's Georgia Tech and Virginia, let's say, in the conference championship game, you got to remember the conference champ gets the auto bid. So Miami's the best team in the conference, but they lost last Friday night. So now they're kind of in a situation where they've got to hope for other teams to lose. They no longer control their own destiny. So that's kind of the intriguing part of this conference moving forward, guys. SMU also undefeated. I'll say this real quickly. SMU, I think they have a really tricky spot this weekend. This is an SMU team that is undefeated in conference play. They have Miami next week coming off of the Clemson win. I have Wake Forest. I took them at 3.5 here in this spot. I think Jake Dickert's squad coming off a bye. We'll keep an eye on the quarterback health of Robbie Ashford as he missed the Wake Forest last game with a thumb injury. But the ACC is very fascinating how this thing is ultimately going to unfold because Miami is clearly the best team in that conference. But because of their loss last week to Louisville, they put themselves in quite the predicament to win this conference. And like I said, I think the ACC would prefer them not win this conference, and then they can ensure themselves 2 bids into the playoff.
One more bonus player in our last 30 seconds, Tim?
Let's go with Colorado State. How about Colorado State? The old fired coach bump They are playing in the border war this week against Wyoming. They got rid of Jay Norvell after they lost last week to Hawaii. I think this is a number that's gone a little bit too far. So we'll hope that the Rams battle hard in the border war, a great rivalry, by the way, in college football. Give me Colorado State plus 4.5 on the road in Laramie.
All right, Tim, going to record another college football podcast today, I would imagine. How many a week do you do,
Yes, sir.
Tim?
Me and Matt Humans will hit record here in a couple hours.
Okay, how many a week do you do of the pod?
3.
3 per week. Okay, including today's highly anticipated one. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. At one, Tim